Hello and welcome back. I'm David Hatch and thank you for joining me today. In this video, we're going to be looking at personal development, including who, what, where, when, why and how, so all of the W's and an H. If you are in a leadership, management or supervisory role, then this topic is really doubly important because you will have to consider the development of yourself and the people you're responsible for. And in today's complex and fast-changing workplace, it's never been more important to have a process or method in place to help your people and their skills keep pace with the environment. Hello again and thanks for joining me. In today's video I'm going to be talking about personal development and in particular what you could and should be doing about it as a leader or manager. We'll look at why this is important, who it's for, when and where you should be doing it, and also some ideas for the what and the how of personal development planning. It's a big topic, so I'm only going to be touching on a few of these quite complex ideas. But hopefully this will be enough to stimulate thought and help point you in the right direction for what you can do next, or what you can try differently to your current approach. This is something I've always been quite passionate about because many companies and bosses completely overlook or abdicate their role in the development of their people. So whenever I've been in a leadership position, I've always tried to ensure that as much support was on offer in this area as I could. And I'll talk about why a little bit later on in this video. But I'm going to start with who, because that's one of the more important questions before you can start to improve the personal development planning within your team. As a leader or manager, whose personal development are you responsible for? Well, the word personal implies that this is the responsibility of each individual. And that is certainly the case because ultimately there does need to be commitment and active involvement from each person in their own development in order for it to be successful. However, this doesn't completely absolve the leader. They are still responsible for ensuring that the environment, resources, and support are provided to enable each individual team member to pursue their personal development goals, in addition to being able to do their jobs. The leader or manager is also, of course, responsible for their own development, and this is not to be neglected either. For example, by ensuring that they keep current on their leadership skills, training and understanding of management best practices. On top of this, the leader also needs to provide a mentoring or coaching role to their team members, helping them to understand and define their goals, consider options for training and so on, as well as providing feedback and some measure of accountability. Finally, the leader also has some responsibility to the team and the organisation in this area. They need to ensure a balance of skills across their team, identify gaps and take steps to provide additional training to close those gaps, as well as keep an eye on how various personal development goals of individuals within the team will align with the wider needs of the business or organisation. This is absolutely not to say that they should be trying to guide people's development in a direction suited to the company as opposed to the individual's interests. But what I think it does mean is being aware of where those are likely to diverge and then having a plan for when that does occur. For example, if someone's personal development journey leads them into a new specialism and then into a new career and then a new company, then having a plan in place for succession or recruiting their replacement quickly would be a key responsibility of that person's manager. And there's an anecdote for this that I use quite often, and I can't even remember where I first saw it, but it goes like this. The CEO says to their HR manager, "What if we train our people up and they leave?" The HR manager replies, "Well, what if we don't and they stay?" And I think this really sums up the problem quite well. There is a natural inclination from the manager mindset to want to retain your people and your resources. And this can result in holding back support or funding for personal development because it may be seen as contrary to the interests of the company. But, as the HR manager points out, what you're actually doing here is reducing the quality of your workforce over time. And that's without considering the high likelihood that people are going to leave anyway if you're not providing them with opportunities for development and advancement. So we've actually strayed into the second question there already, which is why. Why is personal development important from the point of view of the company or the leader manager? The kind of old school manager will see personal development as just that, personal, not the business of the company or the boss, and not their responsibility in terms of allowing time, funding, or support. The CEO versus HR manager anecdote that I just talked about gives some insight into why that's really a flawed position. It starts from the first interaction you have with someone during your recruitment process. These days, a company has to do quite a lot to attract and retain the best talent, and interviewing is arguably just as much about the company selling itself to the candidate as a great place to work, as it is about the potential employee persuading that hiring manager that they are the right person for the job. One aspect of being a great place to work is providing that support, encouragement, resources, and even funding towards employees' personal development. From planning to qualifications to upskilling. If that eventually leads to employees finding better opportunities elsewhere, then the contemporary company and its leader managers will view this more as a shared success and be grateful for the time they got to work with each person, rather than lamenting the lost resource. There's also the why to consider from the point of view of the individuals, and there are some clear benefits to personal development and the planning approach. It can help to establish your long-term goals and career objectives, as well as identifying the skills gap between your current capability and where you need to be to achieve those goals. It also helps you find and consider and then select from the available learning opportunities or qualifications, plan how to achieve your career goals, monitor your progress effectively, and evaluate your successes or failures before going all the way back to that first step and basically rinse and repeat until you've hit your goals. So next I'd like to talk about the what and the how, and this is a really huge topic to cover, and it really can depend on the individuals, on your own leadership approach, and the nature of the organisation that you're operating within. There are some great resources out there if you're stuck for a place to start, so I recommend checking out websites like the Chartered Management Institute, the Institute of Leadership and Management, or the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. And several of the big recruitment sites like Reed or Monster also have some useful articles on the subject. So to give you an example, I'll talk about an approach that I've applied in the past when I've been in a leadership role, which I know produced good results for the people I was working with. Without going into too much detail, the first step really began about 3 months after a person has started with the company. So they'd been through all of the onboarding and induction type stuff and had had a couple of months to kind of get their feet under the desk, get familiar with the company and their new role. At this point, we would open a discussion about their goals, including short-term, long-term and career-wise. And from that first meeting, we then have a series of regular chats at a frequency to be decided by them, not by me, because that's quite important throughout the process. You, as the leader manager, really want the personal development process to be driven by the individual as much as possible. Some people like the weekly chats or fortnightly ones or even monthly or quarterly and so on. So over the course of those next 2 or 3 discussions, whether that takes weeks or months, you or the manager walks the team member through a personal development plan. And we had a template that I'd put together for that purpose. So this plan really helps them to identify their strengths and weaknesses, define their goals, recognise the obstacles and opportunities involved, list out what resources or support they will be needing from the company, from you as their manager and so on, and then finally kind of distill that down into a plan for their next steps, an action plan if you like for the next 6 months or a year or however long is realistic considering the nature of their objectives. After that's done, the leader's role in the process is really to provide support, encouragement, accountability, and where relevant, ensure that the agreed company resources are indeed provided. I chose to do this by continuing that pattern of regular informal chats and helping individuals to review and update their plan as needed chatting through their progress along the way. So moving on to the final two questions, which are the when and the where of personal development. I think when is really up to the individuals and the pace at which they learn, balanced against their other commitments. But as a leader, it is always something you should be thinking about, both for your team and yourself, making sure that there is a plan or some sort of structure in place for both. The where in this day and age is really an open-ended question. With remote learning, video conferencing, and a whole host of online courses available, as well as in-person, bespoke, and various other mediums available now, there's really an option there for any learning style or schedule. Online training in particular has seen a massive boom over the last 12 months due to the obvious COVID elephant in the room. And the key theme that I hope has come out of this video is that personal development is not just the responsibility of the individual employee. The leader, manager, and the organisation have a part to play and should be viewing this as part of their recruitment and retention strategies, as well as an investment in the future. Putting energy, resource, and time into the skills and qualifications of your people is also just the right thing to do. And that's all I've got for you today. Thanks again for joining me, and please do hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Next week, I'll be looking at the perils of toxic culture and why this is something to be avoided. So click the subscribe button and the notification buttons to be alerted when I post that one. I hope to see you there. If you'd like to learn about leading with integrity and the training, coaching, and mentoring programs I offer, then you'll find some useful links in the description below this video. These programs are aimed at new managers or leaders who are looking to build up their leadership skills, so do check those out or sign up to the mailing list on the website to hear more. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next week. Be a leader, not a boss.